Hello and welcome, fellow coders. If you're new to this channel, my name is Thomas and I'm a self-taught software developer living and working in Germany. I am on a mission to help you guys not to make the same mistakes that I made when I started to learn how to code. So today I'm going to talk about my top 5 mistakes that you should avoid to get to the next level. So without further ado, or well, after the intro, let's get into it. But before I go over my list, let me quickly try to convince you why you should listen to a random dude talking on a video platform pretending to be Captain Smartpants. Well, first of all, I made mistakes in the past. And not just a few. I made thousands of mistakes. Think of one. Yeah, I made that. Think of another one. I made that too. Yeah, I'm an expert at that one. Okay, let's be serious now. I can say that I made a fair share of mistakes. Since I'm a self-taught developer, I had to basically learn by making mistakes. But I think a lot of them could have been avoided if I had someone, maybe someone like me, who would have told me how to avoid them. Another reason why I am your man is that in Germany we have this thing called Ausbilderschein. It is basically a piece of paper that certifies me as a person who can teach. Germans and their rules, right? And in my career as a software developer, I indeed had 2 trainees which I helped become software developers. But the most important reason why you should listen to me is that I'm an IT guy. And we are all 100% without any exception trustworthy. Okay, now that 100% trust is established, I first need to explain that my top 5 mistakes are not some kind of programming mistakes like bad variable naming or using the wrong data type. Although these are also quite common mistakes that beginners make, I personally believe that the points I'm going to talk about today are on a more fundamental level. You might call them bad habits that almost all beginners develop, or rather good habits that beginners oftentimes neglect when they should much rather pick them up as early as possible. I hope this makes sense. So personally, I'm convinced that the points I'm going to teach you today will help you much more than just pointing out that you should name your variables correctly. And now it is finally time to get into my top 5 mistakes that beginner programmers make that you should avoid. Mistake number 1. Not learning the tools. Beginners focus a lot on the programming language, and there is nothing wrong about that. But one thing that is as important as learning how to code is learning how to use the tools that you use on a daily basis. Imagine a chef who tries to become the #1 cook in town. He works super hard, but only focuses on the recipes, the ingredients, and how to cook them perfectly. But when he cuts meat, it goes like this. He will never become a great chef if he neglects learning how to use the tools properly. And that is exactly what you should do too. Learn to use your tools. I am talking about the IDE you're using. There are so many keyboard shortcuts that you can learn in order to become 1000% more efficient. You should also learn how the debugger works and how to debug your code efficiently. How to create your own code snippets or templates. How to navigate between files or within a file without using the mouse. Learn all these things and I promise you will be coding so much faster. It is most definitely worth the time. The second mistake is over-engineering everything. I know that when you learn new things it is very tempting to use them everywhere. I was no exception to that. When I first heard about design patterns, oh my god. Looking back, it feels like I made it my life goal to use every single design pattern in every single class. My facade pattern factory builder has decorated a new value. Better inform all my observers. I don't know. Yeah, you can imagine how my code looked like, right? As soon as I learned a new pattern, I try to integrate it everywhere. Much like when you know how to use a hammer, everything becomes a nail, right? That is a big problem. You start to overcomplicate your solution. And we all know that the more complex your code gets, the harder it is to understand and to maintain. So the advice I want to give you actually comes from one of the most iconic software developers out there. Ken Beck is his name. He once said, make it work, make it right, make it fast. If you take one thing out of this video, just one, make sure it is this quote. Make it work, make it right, make it fast. So whenever you solve a problem using code, the first thing you want to do is make it work. It does not matter if the code looks ugly or if not every single edge case is covered. Just make it work first. Then make it right. For instance, put in some thought if your architecture can be done better. Design patterns, anyone? Give your variables, files and functions meaningful names. Check all edge cases and make sure that your application raises understandable errors when, for example, the user passes invalid strings or so. Put simply, after the make it right stage, your application should be easy to read, easy to maintain and easy to extend. The last part is make it fast. This can be done by optimizing your code. Make sure that you use optimal data structures, optimize database queries, or think about using a faster database altogether. Do all these things that improve the time between the click of the button up to the response the customer sees. But make it fast does not only mean in terms of response or calculation times, it also means in terms of development times. Every developer knows the scenario where in order to write your front-end code, you first need to fire up a database and the application you are writing the UI for. The gateway must be running, the user server must be running as well. And starting all of them takes up to 2 minutes because you first need to connect your VPN, then start 2 Docker containers, then change into 5 different directories only to type in npm run start. And after what feels like an eternity, you can finally start writing code. And guess what? This needs to be done every single day. This is the point where you should definitely start automating these tedious things. Writing a script that automates only half of these tasks will save you so much time in the long run, and it makes it easier for people who are new to this project as well. So again, and I cannot stress this enough, stop making it too complicated and simply make it work, make it right, make it fast. The make it right part of it directly leads me to mistake number 3. It is such a common mistake that I feel that it deserves a whole point for itself. And that is that most beginners are neglecting code quality altogether. But not only beginners. Code quality is something that a lot of programmers do not appreciate as much as they should. More often than not, it happens that you have some kind of idea and you quickly want to hack it down, or you simply copy and paste the same function for the 10th time because you need it in some other class as well. Something I do a lot is commenting out code that did not work well, but I still want to keep it in case the new try does not work. But in the end, these comments stay in the codebase for all eternity because I forget to clean them up right away. Yeah, shame on me. As we learned before, that is totally okay if you just want to make it work. But the problem is that when you keep all these minor oopsies in your codebase and do not clean them up on a regular basis, they tend to end up quite quickly. This is actually a very bad habit that you should try to avoid or fix as soon as possible. Because the next time you look at your code, when for instance you want to implement a new feature, you will be having trouble understanding it. And then you start blaming time constraints or pressure from management. But guys, let's be serious. It's not their fault. It's your own fault. All you need to do is just to invest a little bit of your time into the quality of your own code. For instance, try to make it a habit to use the last half hour of your working or learning time to clean up your mess. Remove things that are not used anymore. Give your variables and functions meaningful names. Write useful comments for complex code snippets that you wrote today. All these small things add up over time, and the future you will thank you for that. Another thing the future you will be thankful for is if the past you wrote unit tests. That is actually mistake number 4. Not writing unit tests. Writing tests is an absolute essential part of programming. Even if you are one of these I don't make mistakes people, think of tests as something that you write for your future self. If you ever need to make changes to the code that you wrote, you will at least have a safety net that will warn you in case your changes did break functionality. This is especially important for complex code bases. I know that for most developers, writing unit tests is the least fun part of their job. But if you're just starting to learn to code, or if you're starting your career as a software developer, my advice is start writing unit tests. At least for the most critical parts of your code. This will prevent the future you of breaking your own code. But trust me, he will try. Big time. The 5th mistake that a lot of beginners make is Getting stuck in tutorial hell. This especially applies to the people who try to learn coding by themselves and are not already working as software developers. Being stuck in tutorial hell means that some people who try to learn something new tend to watch tutorial after tutorial after tutorial without actually becoming better. Even if they code along these tutorials, they get the solution to all their problems handed to them on a silver plate, so they are never actually facing real coding or problem solving challenges. Of course, there is nothing wrong with watching or reading tutorials. I myself do it all the time when I learn something new. But the difference is, before I even start watching the tutorial, I know what I'm going to build with it. So if you are stuck in tutorial hell, there is one advice I want to give you. Start with the solution in mind. What is it that you are trying to build as soon as you have learned whatever it is you are trying to learn? And then learn only whatever is necessary to accomplish that goal. Let me give you a quick example. I will be learning Web 3.0 development in the near future, so coding on a blockchain. My goal is to write my own blockchain, the Tom chain if you will. Of course, I could simply search for how to write a blockchain, and to be honest, I probably will, because it is a very complex topic. Okay, this does not help my point. Let me start over. My goal will be to write my own kind of marketplace where I can buy and sell things on the blockchain. For those of you who know about it, this is essentially an OpenSea clone. Of course, I can simply search for OpenSea clone tutorial. But what I will do instead is searching for maybe how to store data on the blockchain or how to read data from the blockchain. See, what I do is watch tutorials for specific problems that will help me build my solution. This is much more effective than searching for the solution on a silver plate. So stop watching tutorials after you have learned the basics and start applying them. Run into problems and then search for solutions to these specific problems. This way you will learn much more compared to simply watching tutorial after tutorial after tutorial. And these are my personal top 5 mistakes that I see a lot of beginners make. I really hope that you learned something today. If you did, let me know in the comments down below if there is any kind of mistake in particular that you will not be making in the future. As far as I can tell, I made all of these, and I wish I would have watched a video like this maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It would have saved me countless hours of trouble. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next one, and as always, until next time, keep on coding.